Hello and welcome to the second session of the Linux Bootcamp organized by the GNU Linux Users Group NIT Durgapur. In the first session that took place yesterday, we talked about the merits of using Linux and why you should prefer it over other operating systems. Well, in today's session, we're going to talk about some of the most basic and useful commands of the Linux terminal or the shell. Well, while it is completely possible to use Linux using the graphical user interface, you would always be missing the key aspects and the very essence of using Linux if you never use or try to use the command line interface. I'm Shoporno, junior member of GLUG, and let's dive right in. Now, the first question that comes to mind is, what's a shell? In a Linux system, the shell is a command line interface that interprets a user's commands and script files and tells the server's operating system what to do with them. Well, you can think of the shell as a fancy file explorer, and whatever you do to navigate to the different files and folders using the GUI or your mouse, you can do it more effectively and efficiently using the shell by just typing out commands. There are several shells that are widely used, such as the C shell and the Bone shell, which is more commonly known as the bash. Now, the Bone shell or bash is the default shell for most Linux distributions, and you can find it, you can fire it up by going to the apps section and opening the terminal. Well, before we go into the details of navigating directories in Linux, let's take a look at perhaps the simplest shell command, the whoami command. Well, whenever invoked, the whoami command displays the name of the currently logged in user. Let's look. Well, now you know, anytime you forget your name, Linux has your back. Well, jokes aside, now that we know who we are, let's take a look at how we make our way through the directory structure on our system. Directories are basically folders. We start with the simplest commands and then we'll gradually make our way up. So let's start. The first command that we'll take a look at is the pwd command. The pwd stands for print working directory. All it does is print the absolute address of the directory you're currently in. Now the question is, what is an absolute directory? Well, what is an absolute path or the absolute address? An absolute address of a file or a directory starts from the root directory, which is the highest directory in the hierarchy. On the other hand, a relative address starts from the current directory. And the pwd works with the absolute one because it cares about newbies getting lost. The tilde to the left of the command prompt represents the home directory. Let's take a look. As you can see, it shows me where it shows the user where he actually is currently. Now the next command is the ls command. The ls command is basically used to list the files in the current directory. It can be used with loads of options, the most common ones being t, which sorts the files according to the last modified time, that is, according to the time when you last opened and modified the file. It can be used with the L option, which displays the files, which lists the files with all their details, including when they were created, when they were last modified, and along with it, the permissions of the file. That is, whether it is a writable file or a readable file, or it is an executable file. The ls-1 option displays one per line. That is, one file per line. Simple enough. Let's go. Well, now moving on to the most commonly used, one of the most commonly used commands, the mkdir command. The mkdir command will you'll find the use of the mkdir command very regularly, as you'll be creating folders very regularly. Now what it does is it makes directories. It creates directories and sets permissions for them. The way you use this command is mkdir space the name of the directory that you want to create. You can also use it with options, or rather the permissions of the file, like mkdir/-m, and then whether it's readable, writable, or executable, and then the name of the directory. Next is the cd command. Well, now that you've created a new folder or a directory, you want to be able to get into that directory. Like, you want to get into that directory and do some work. So in order to change the directory, you use the cd command, which stands for change directory. It changes the directory that you're currently in. Now, the use of this command is pretty simple. You write cd and then put a space, and you can either mention the absolute address of a directory, that is, you can navigate to anywhere on your file system, or you can also use the relative address to get into the directory that is within another directory. Let's take a look at it. Okay, sorry, before we move on, we also need to take a look at two other options. That is, in order to go to the parent directory, you type cd and space 2 dots without any spaces between them. Now, to go to the previous working directory, you type cd and space a hyphen. And finally, you use cd tilde that takes you directly back to the home directory. Well, this speeds up a lot of your processes, and in case you need to navigate to a home folder from a very nested directory structure, you can do it very fast using the tilde sign. Now, the next command that we're going to take a look at is the touch command. We already have a folder created using the mkdir command, and now we have already changed our directory into the folder that we created. Now, we need to be able to create files. Now, the touch command simply creates, changes, and modifies the timestamps of a file. In simple words, it is used to create files. And all you need to do is type touch space the file name. And if you want to change the modification time of the file, you can use the -m option along with the file name. Let's take a look. Again, this is one of the most commonly used commands because you'll be creating files and folders on a regular basis. Next, we come to the echo command. Well, the echo command functions exactly as it sounds. Well, it displays a line of text or a string that is passed as an argument. Say you want to echo out, or rather display a line of text onto the command line terminal. All you need to do is write the echo command space an option if you want to, and then the string that you need to display, that you want to display. Well, while this command might not look that useful to you, it is useful in cases when you write a bash script and you want to display something on the terminal. Getting to the next command, the cat command. Well, the cat command reads and outputs data from a file. It also helps create, view, and concatenate files. Now, in simple words, the cat command can be used to view the contents of a file. Say you have a text file and you want to like read the contents of it without having to navigate through the directory structure, or without even wanting to click, like wanting to open the file directly. So all you need to do is cat space file name, and it'll give you the contents of the file directly. Let's take a look. Well, the cat command can also be used very efficient, like in a shrewd way, to copy the contents of a source file to a destination file as shown. Now we come to the cp command. Well, the cp command, as it sounds, stands for copy. Well, it copies the files or group of files and the directories to the destination folder that you mentioned. Well, it requires two arguments in a minimum. It requires a minimum of two arguments, and the way you use it is you write cp space the absolute or the relative path of the source file, and then you put a space and mention the absolute path of the destination file. You can use the cp command to also like copy multiple files at the same time to a given destination. Here it is used to copy two files, namely hello.txt and hello2.txt. The mv command. The mv command moves the files and directories from one place to another in the file system. So instead of copying the file from one place to another, you can think of it as cutting the file from one directory and pasting it into another directory. So rather than copying the contents, it just moves the file altogether. So now another important thing to note is that if the destination isn't mentioned for the source file, the destination to which the file needs to be moved, it doesn't matter, because the mv command will create the destination if it doesn't exist. The usage is very similar to the cp command, and you need to first mention the name of the source file, the absolute path of the source file, and then followed by the absolute address of the destination file. Here we see it copy the hello2.txt file. So you see the hello2.txt file is gone, and now only the hello3.txt file exists, because that's the directory structure, or that's the absolute path of the destination that we mentioned. Nextly, we come to the rm command. The rm command removes files and directories and so on from the file system. Well, it is a command to be used with because just as it is easy to create files and folders, it is pretty easy to delete them as well. So use it with caution. Now, the usage of the rm command is the following, is as follows. The rm command is followed by a file name if you want to delete that file, and in case we want to delete a directory, we need to mention the tag rf option. And what it does is it uses a recursive approach to delete the directory. What I mean by this is that it goes into the directory, looks at the directories within that directory, and uses a recursive approach to go one by one and navigate through the directory structure while deleting the files and directories within them. Let's take a look. Here we are removing the hello3.txt file that we created. And we can see it's gone. The rmdir command. The rmdir command, though rarely used, it's like we need to discuss it. And what it does is it removes each and every directory specified in the command line only if those directories are empty. So here is a condition. Here are two conditions that it works on. First of all, it can only be used to delete directories, and secondly, the directories need to be empty. If they aren't, then the rmdir command won't succeed. You can see that it failed to remove the directory 1 because we created another directory called directory 3 within it. So as long as the directory is not empty, rmdir is not going to work. Coming to the ref command. Well, as we use, like the usage of the ref command is pretty similar to the cat command. It also displays the contents of a file, but as the name suggests, it displays them in a reverse order. Say you have a text file and you want to print its content in a reverse order. Your best buddy will be the ref command, and to use it, all you need to do is type ref space the file name. And as you know, the file name can be anything from an absolute address or a relative address. Now to store another file in use, to store this file, you need to do ref file name, then put an angular bracket and specify the name of the new file. So as we can see, when we printed the hello.txt file in reverse, then we got hello world in a reversed way. And when we when we used the cat command, we got it in the exact way as it was written. Now coming to the find command. Well, it is a very useful command, and what it does is it is a Unix command, and it is a command line utility for walking a file hierarchy. It can be used to find files and directories and perform subsequent operations on them. It supports searching by the file name, the folder name, creation date, modification date, owner, and permissions. Now, by using the exec option, other Unix commands can also be executed on files and folders found. All you need to do is type find and then the name of the file, and it will find the file for you. That is, it will print out the absolute address to that file. Finally, we come to the df command. Well, the df command is used to display the disk space used in the file system. Well, the df command stands for disk file system. Well, it defines the number of blocks used, the number of blocks available, and the directory where the file system is mounted. Again, in simple terms, it shows the information about the file system on which the file resides. So to use it, we write df space the file name. Well, as you can see, it displays a lot of information about the file name, the file system, the blocks used, blocks remaining, and where it's mounted. Well, that was it from my side. The rest of the commands will be explained by another member of our club. So over to you, Rohan.
Hi there. I'm Rohan Rao, a CSE sophomore from NIT Durgapur and a junior member of the GNU Linux Users Group. And I welcome you to the second part of the Linux Commands workshop on the second day of the open source starter pack. So let's get right into it. The next command which we are going to learn is du. What du signifies is the disk usage of a particular file or a folder. It tells you the amount of storage it uses in bytes. It returns an integer value in the number of 512 byte segments which your file stores on the system. For example, if you write du space hello.txt and it returns 3, that means that file occupies 3 into 512 bytes or 1.5 KB on your system. If you enter du space path to a folder, then disk utilization will go to all those folders inside that folder, find the subfolders and subfiles, and find the storage for each and every one of them and show to you. By default, it returns the integer value, which is the segment size of 512 bytes. Otherwise, you can also get output in kilobytes and megabytes according to your choices. Let's see this command in utilization. So we go and type du space hello.txt and it shows 4. That means that this file occupied 4 into 512 bytes or about 2 KB on my system. The next command, as you can see on the screen already, is ps. What ps does is tells you the process state of a particular file. For example, if you're running a game or a server on your Linux system, then every application or service which runs has a process number attached to it. So if you type ps space the process ID, then it will tell you the status of that process. If you do not know the process ID of your system application, then you can just type ps, and if your user has the authorization to see those processes, then it will show you the processes which are now currently running along with the process ID. So after that, if you want to see one particular process, you could just type ps space the ID of the process. Let's see this command once. So we go and we type ps and it shows you all the processes on your system at that point of time. Pretty straightforward, right? The next command which we are going to do is clear. Clear is a command which just empties your terminal window of anything which is displayed over. For example, you have done a ls command or you have done some shell scripting and you have outputted some data to your terminal, and now you no longer need that data and you want to start afresh. So instead of running a new terminal window, all you need to do is just type clear in your terminal and hit enter, and all those logs will be deleted and you will have a fresh terminal to start from. Let's see this in action too. We go and we type ls and we see all the files present there. Now we just go and type clear and then we have a clear screen. Pretty straightforward, right? File permissions. Well, this is an important bit and you should pay attention to this. File permissions in any file system or in any operating system refer to the people and the permissions attached with them to read, view or execute files. In Linux, there are 3 subcategories in which you can store files, that is user, group or other. These are the ownership options. For each and every individual one of them, there is a read, write or execute permission which may or may not be there. For example, your user group might be able to read the file, your group might be able to write it, and the other might be able to execute. Or perhaps if you want to set the permissions for across all 3 categories as executable, that is, you would neither be able to read the contents of the file nor will you be able to write the contents of the file, but you can execute that file. Then all of them will have only x, x and x as their permission. Now what does r, w, x, user, group, other mean? Again, user, group or other signifies the ownership of the file or the particular file permission attached to it. User would be a user on the system, group will be some other user group on the system, or other will be some other person who has access to this file. So what does this mean? This means that for a particular group, say user, you set the file permission to r, w and x. That would mean that the users on this laptop or this computer or this Linux system will be able to read the file, write the file, and even execute it as a binary or as a script. What does that execution mean? Suppose you're writing a Python script, right? But you do not want the contents of that script to be visible to everyone. So what do? You change the R to null for say any of the users. Then those particular set of users wouldn't be able to see what is inside the file. They might be still able to write it though, but they won't be able to see what they are writing, and they won't be able to see what they execute. So once writing the script is done, you want to execute it, right? So that time the X permission comes into play. So if you have set the permission as X for a particular user group, then they will be able to run it as a binary or as a script inside their terminals. What this signifies is, suppose you write a Python script but you don't set the permissions for it, then you won't be able to execute it from your terminal unless you change the permissions for the same. Same goes for shell scripts or any other application. Unless there is an executable permission attached to the file, you cannot run them from the terminal in usual circumstances. So those are the file permissions, and you need to be wary of how you are setting them. But how do you set them? The next command is chmod. Chmod is a command which sets these permissions. For example, if you want to set the permission for the other group as rwnx, that is read, write and execute. So you could just write o plus rwx, chmod o plus rwx, then the file name. And that way you will be able to give permission to the other group to have access to that file for read, write and execution. Let's see an example. So if we go in our terminal and we type ls-l, it shows you the r, w and x permissions for the user, group and other. So now if I go and type chmod o plus rwx hello.txt, so now in the other group, the reading, writing and execution permissions are being added. So now the hello.txt file will have those permissions attached to it for only that group. So this is how it works. So what is sudo? Now a lot of people have this query about their Android phones as well, that what exactly is rooting your device. We keep hearing this. So rooting your device basically means, or in case of normal Linux distributions, just the root user, is that there is a user on every Linux system who has supreme admin rights. He is the admin, he is the super user or the root user. The root user has every permission across the board to modify, delete and use files as and when they wish. For example, a sudo and then any command will run irrespective of what file permissions that user has at that time, because you are using the super user power. And as any Linux sysadmin would tell you, with great power comes great responsibility. So if you are running any command with the sudo insignia, make sure that you know what you are running, or else if you run any script or command just like that with sudo, your file system and files might be exposed to attacks. So the sudo is a position of responsibility, and its password should be known only to the sysadmin at all times. Sudo has basically every power across the board to install software, to remove permissions, to add users, to remove users, to tweak the user's passwords, anything a sudo user can do. So let's see what exactly can we do with the sudo permissions. So right now I'll be installing from the apt, I'll be updating my packages. So as I said, only the super user can install or upgrade packages. So after I give my password, what is happening is that it is going and finding out all updates possible to my software, and it is letting me know. So that is possible only from the super user. So a super user, again, as a reminder, I'm telling you, if you have your sudo access, do not give it to anyone. Make sure if you're running a command with sudo access, you know what you're running, and make sure that you use it responsibly, or you will end up removing very important files from your system and subtly crashing it. Next is apt. apt is not exactly, it's a utility, it's a package manager or Ubuntu based systems. So for every Ubuntu based system, Canonical has released a APT version, and APT is a package manager which is unique to Ubuntu, and Ubuntu uses it to add and remove packages. So what are packages? Suppose VLC media player. You want to install VLC on your laptop, or you want to install, say, Steam or Snap Store or any other thing. So all of these softwares are present somewhere on the internet. So what a package manager does in Spirit is that it has links to many repositories where these releases are stored. It finds those for you according to the list which it has, which you can edit. And then it finds the software which you want to install or you want to update, remove, tweak, whatever. So then after getting the access to that file, it downloads it to your local machine and installs it for you and maintains it for you. So if in the future the package manager finds that there has been an update for a package which is installed in your system, it will notify you and help you download the same. APT is a very important tool which helps you to use packages as and when you want to. Let's see how we run it. So we go and type sudo apt install, and then we type VLC. So I'm trying to install the VLC media player here, and I put my sudo password, and it asks for my permission. And as I said, only sudo can add or remove packages, and then it will do the installation for me. It's nearly 350 megabytes, so it will take some time. So as I was saying, that APT installs this for you, and now APT will keep a track of this VLC package for you. So in the future, if in the sources from which it got the VLC package, a new version comes and I type sudo apt update, then it will let me know that that package has got an upgrade. Now I will remove the VLC package, and as you can see, sudo apt remove, and then that's it. The sudo files are gone, and then we do sudo apt, the VLC files are gone, sudo apt update. So now it is finding all the things for me, and it is helping me to find new updates for my packages. So as you can see, it shows me that there are 183 packages which have new versions to them. And now I do sudo apt upgrade, and now the new updates which had come in would be upgraded for me. It does it automatically for me. It's a hassle-free experience, unlike Windows wherein your system keeps crashing after an update. It works in the background and it takes care of everything for me. This is the power of Linux. APT is not the only package manager. Various distributions have their own package managers and various other ways to install, but APT is one of the most popular ones because of Ubuntu. The next thing which we need to discuss is users. So as in any operating system, a user is a person who has a certain set of instructions and a certain set of permissions and file systems attached to them. So suppose you have a home computer in your home, and you want to add users for your family, and you want to add users for your siblings, and you want to add users for your guests. Then you can do it through the terminal using the sudo command. So the super user can add, remove, or give new users their powers. This is very important because only a sudo user can add or remove users, and can set permissions to which files or databases they can access. So these are the few things which you need to keep in mind. These are a few commands which are useful. Say add user. Add user is, as it says, it adds a user to the system, or user deletion, or adding a group. A group of users, suppose you have a thing for siblings, which will have a few lesser permissions than your parents. Then those can be done using the add group. You can delete entire groups using del group. You can modify a particular user, or you can see and edit them as you wish. So let's see a usage of how we can add a user. Remember, all of this is done by sudo. So realize the power which the sudo command holds for you. So I'm adding a user for Dan, and I'm adding a new password for her. I retype the password for her, and now it will ask for some additional data which is completely optional. So after I put it in, a new user will be created by the name of Dan, and I can log into that user if I wish to after logging out from my current session. Once I confirm, that's it. A new user has been added and I can log in into it. But now as a sudo user, I will remove that user which I just created, and it will ask me and I have deleted it. That's it. So a sudo user has a lot of powers, and you can add or remove users, add groups according to your will, and make sure that the data stays where it's supposed to and the users can access the files and applications which they are supposed to. Finally, the final command of this session has come, and that's man. What is man? Man is basically the manual command. The manual command tells you what each and every command does on your Linux machine. That is, it takes my job and does it for me now. So if you did not understand anything or any command today, don't worry. You can just go to your own Linux installation, type man followed by a space and then the command name, and it will tell you exactly how that command is to be used and in what circumstances can that command be used, with a small and nice concise description. So this is the power of Linux. It keeps a store of all its commands and tells you how you can use which one at what point of time. So let's see this final command in usage. We go and you type man space ls, and it tells you all the things which the ls command can do. And that's it. Thank you for watching today. It was a pleasure hosting this for you. The GNU Linux users group extends its gratitude to all of you for watching the sessions. And tomorrow we have the Git and GitHub workshop. Make sure you turn up for that. We will have doubt clearing sessions regarding this session right now. Soon they will be announced for you, wherein you can join in and interact with us on a personal basis and ask your questions. And yes, tomorrow is the Git and GitHub workshop. Make sure you're there for it. And thank you for watching. May the source be with you. This has been a GLUG presentation.